Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, we'll be talking about several storm systems. I don't know what I'm going to call it, if I'm going to call it one storm system or several. There is going to be multiple, but I think I'll just focus on the first one primarily because it's still kind of far out and the second one's even further out. So what's the point on focusing on the second one if the first one's already a load of information to soak in. But yeah, I'll show you the second one, maybe not as focused on it as much. But if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. If this is your third, fourth video or not yet subscribed, consider doing that. If you're a subscriber, that's awesome. Thank you so much for clicking and watching this video. If you're not a subscriber also, just thank you so much for the support. I think yesterday's video got like 15,000 views. That's like a ton. Thank you so much for that. And liking the video also helps out. Leaving a comment or concern, I answer pretty much all comments or concerns. So yeah, let's start getting into this and let's start talking about the weather. So first off, I want to start off by looking not at the Canadian model, which notice this is the Canadian, which CMC, the Canadian Meteorological Center. So it's really good. It's a really good model, though I don't prefer to look at it during the summer as much as I do during the winter time. I feel like it does better with the winter storms. But let's take a look at the GFS, a very, very good model, and let's see what it shows for the forecast. So right now, notice we do have quite a bit of rains across the East Coast. Some of them are offland. Most of them are actually offland, but there are definitely some reaching the coastal areas with some rain. It's been very, very wet, and notice this is our time print right here, August 5th. 1 o'clock in the morning, 18 hours out, so that is tomorrow, or yeah, tomorrow very early in the morning. And notice that they're pushing off the coast. There will be still a few showers, especially for Connecticut, Boston, right, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Maine. But the storm that I'm talking about isn't really the one that's moving away. It's one that's going to be configuring itself across the kind of central and southern Canada area. So notice there are going to be some showers today into Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, southern Canada, into portions of the Northwest. Not a lot. Hopefully there will be more than what this model is showing it. They need it. But notice, this is where things start getting a bit more active. We do see a cold front from a previous system that affects portions of Michigan, maybe southern Canada into Saturday. So again, yeah, we're already at Saturday and the system still hasn't formed, which is why, again, I'm just focusing on one as it's still kind of far out. Yeah, and not the entire United States will not be impacted by this. Just watch where the green blobs are. This is basically how the GFS thinks how much rain will fall. So see that yellow? That's what it says. It could be as much as 4 inches in as much as 4 millimeters in 1 hour. Right there, any given hour, and this is every 6 hours, so it's a bit hard to estimate, which is why I'll show you the total accumulated precip at the end. Notice though, by Sunday we see a low pressure right there. It's kind of weak, going in and out of existence. It will be a bit hard for them to kind of stay alive, but nonetheless, the thunderstorms out of that are definitely going to be expansive. Look at Missouri, Iowa, definitely quite a bit across Minnesota and into North Dakota. Expansive storms. They will be dying down quickly, though. Notice, into the overnight hours, they expand and then they die off. There will be some rain that reaches Illinois, Wisconsin, maybe southern Missouri, but not as strong. But notice, during the late afternoon and into the early overnight hours, it expands again further now across into Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and it happens again. Notice that it does die down, but then it reinvigorates itself. It's kind of like a pattern. In the evening hours, the storms get quite a bit stronger, and then they die down overnight. So this is kind of like the first storm system. It's a conglomerate, if you will, of precip bouts and precipitation shields. It's not really one well put together a storm like you would see in the winter months, where have a giant cold front, warm front, and a lot of precipitation. In this one, yes, we do have a lot of precipitation, but it's just not as well put together. So notice that there's our low pressure, several of them across southern Canada, bringing some rain. That is good. So notice into Monday, this is what the status looks like. Into Tuesday, moves into southern Canada, the northeast, potentially Ohio, the mid-Atlantic, seeing some rain. Again, repeated bouts of rain across similar areas could lead to some flooding or other concerns with mainly hydraulic issues, right? Rivers rising and whatnot, and also severe weather. Any given of these storms, especially in August, where the environment is still humid, damp, very, very conducive for these severe thunderstorms. So some hail, probably more of a damaging wind threat. Tornadoes, possibly not really a threat at this point, it seems to be concerned of. And then notice that as we push into Wednesday, look what happens back into Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, back building of these storms. So what we have is the previous kind of cells or energy from the rain now reaching the northeast. Again, this looks rather weak, but it probably will have some moderate to even heavy bouts of rain. Maybe not storms, but definitely some much needed rainfall for portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. Not necessarily the coast, as they've seen, again, quite a bit of rain. And look, as we push this into Wednesday, there's our storms. They die down during the overnight and they reinvigorate during the evening hours. Again, look at that, Thursday, and now this is into portions of Friday. And this is when it kind of starts falling apart, the first system. Notice it wasn't as organized, right, as we would see, again, as I mentioned, during the fall or winter months. But look, let me just run this forward quickly. Look how much bouts of precip there will be, right? Just kind of scouring the country, especially, again, east of the Rockies. And this is the second system that I was referring to. It's very far out, and it's not really, it's more, definitely well more organized, more like a fall system. Notice that if I were to show you, let's just take a look at this North America, we'd be able to see this way better. There's our system, low pressure, giant cold front, pretty much stretching from Hudson Bay, where polar bears live, all the way down to the to the Mexican border and into the Gulf Coast. So lots of severe weather potentially with this one. Look at that cold front scouring through the United States. Definitely a well more organized system than the first one in terms of its low pressure characteristics. Definitely though more quick moving. More of the severe weather rather than a flooding threat. And as we push this forward, that's where the forecast stops and we're kind of left at a hanging cliff, right? And we don't really know what's going to happen then. Notice there is decent amounts of cool air behind this system, and obviously there are snow showers already appearing, snowstorms towards the north. This will continue to make its way down towards the south as the summer nears its end and the days grow shorter and the sun becomes weaker. And I do actually want to show you that behind this cold front, I know I said I wouldn't be focusing on a second system, but you know, it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of information potentially out ahead of time. Look, there after that cold front that you saw, lots of severe weather. I'm thinking because of, look, the cold air right there, the warm air out ahead of it. Probably not like a historic outbreak or rare or unusual, just definitely something to keep an eye on for. It's very far out, but if it were to happen, look, at least we have a nice cool down for a good portion of the U.S. Northern plains into the south, into the east, so that would be nice. Will it happen? Who knows? And look, the models bring in more heat right afterwards for the west, so yeah. And you can see that after this first storm, not much cooler temperatures really at all. Pretty much they're just occurring where the storms occur and where there's cloud cover and it's rain cooled, but no big air mass of cool air, which is why, again, it indicates to us the system's not as organized. It doesn't have a kind of access to that cold air like that second system will, which, again, look at that, just the boom, the air mass. It's like a Boeing echo. So, again, very distinct differences. And you can see that where the storms do develop, as I mentioned, quite some drastic changes in temperatures. I mean, in some of these areas, we'll be going from 100 to 70 after the thunderstorm. So, yeah, you'll probably want those storms after you experience that heat for a while. And even before that, it's already dry, so you might want it in the first place. All right, enough of that. Let's start going on. Notice there's our current storm system kind of pulling away from the United States. There's our weak cold front. Our low pressure could bring some showers and storms into the U.S., kind of the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, potentially even as we push towards the weekend. It combines with energy from the south. That pushes off. And this is where we start seeing that more significant low pressure. Notice, look at that, right? So this first little wave, why I call it little, because look how small the clusters of storms are. Not that big. There definitely could be some, but look at this one. Big Boeing echoes, potentially some damaging winds. Again, probably some hail as well, maybe some large hail. Definitely a lot stronger and a lot more vigorous, affecting multiple areas over and over again. And if you just have one or two more clusters over the same area, that could lead to ponding, even if you're in a dry spell. So, yeah. Definitely something to watch for. And again, this will be occurring into this weekend and into early next week. So this is not terribly far out. And notice that right behind it, we do see, according to the European, which the GFS showed as well, it just didn't show as well of an organized low pressure. It shows another, look at that, another low pressure with a powerful cold front, Boeing echoes in all sorts of directions. And across southern Canada, we have that light to moderate rain and quite a bit of winds. So definitely something to watch for. Look at that. It intensifies this cold front as it pushes off the northeast and develops a kind of a third low pressure. So the European shows a similar story, just differently. Similarities, let's start with those first. It is very wet with this storm system. Notice bouts of rain, kind of like the GFS showed. Except with the European, each one of them is tied to a low pressure that is a lot more strongly developed than what the GFS shows, just these loose organized storm bands. Either way, really, it's going to be an active pattern for the north. I would say even the upper plains and the Great Lakes, the northeast, Maybe not so much the southern United States. Definitely getting in on some. Notice the southwest kind of dries out, not as much monsoons. The northwest also does really miss out on many of these systems. There could be a bit of rain potentially over the weekend, especially towards Monday and Sunday across Montana. So that's good news. Again, some of these clusters, they look very small and starved out. They could be rather big once you see them on the radar and drop, up to an inch and a half in a few isolated areas. So that could definitely be good news if you're caught under that. But if you're not, you're pretty much staying high and dry. But you look at that. The European does show that 2-3 inches across in North Dakota. Definitely something they would need. And you could see the clear bias with this model, or the favoring of the Northeast, the Great Lakes, not even so much the Northeast, more of the Great Lakes, the upper Midwest, Minnesota. They need that across the northern areas. Really, all of the state needs rain, so hopefully that will help out just at least a bit. Notice the South, not as much, but definitely still some activity. The Northwest, really minimal, but there could be some areas that pick up to an inch and a half that could hopefully help out some of the wildfires and not just cause more with dry lightning. That's the biggest fear. And the Canadian, which, again, I showed you at the beginning, but I didn't want to really because it was a bad model to start off with. Let's see its precipitation outlook. Favoring similar areas, a bit more across the northwest, the Idaho Panhandle, seeing a widespread 1 to 2 inch rainfall potentially. And notice that it does favor more of Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, and still favoring the Great Lakes and potentially the Northeast. South as well, drying out, including the Southwest. So you can see that all models have some relative degree of agreement, so that's always a good thing to say. Or to see. And if you recall, yesterday I made that video about the concerning pattern, and yes, it's still concerning. Today I just wanted to focus on something else and a different story. But if you're to take a look at the temperatures, they are going to be very, very hot, and that's still going to be kind of the main priority of this. And I just want to make it clear that this, that yesterday's video wasn't about alarming or an alarmist type video. It was just telling you what's most likely going to come. You could see 190s. Yes, people are saying that, yes, it's summer. What do you expect? But it's just not this, not this high of a temperature. That's usual, and also that there's already a drought, and it's been already super hot for most of the summer. Usually it'd be followed by some sort of a more normal spell of temperatures closer to average, but there's just heat after heat. Notice very hot even across the south, the northeast. Many locations not being spared by that. We look at that. Chicago, potentially 90s into Michigan, 95 upper Michigan to the northeast, coastal areas, large cities probably getting close to the triple digits, and then here in Kansas and Nebraska getting well within the triple digits, probably the triple digits meaning the teens, so like 110 plus in some areas. And notice as he pushes forward, where do we see that heat developing? Yeah, right there, unfortunately. And the GFS showed that yesterday, and it shows that today. Look at that; it even shows a bigger area for the upper plains into around the 13th of August. So just a cruel heat wave potentially. Thankfully, according to the latest updates, maybe not as long-lasting, right? There will be some breaks of 70s, 80s, but notice that the heat is definitely going to be eager to return. And yeah, especially right here. I mean, what is that? Hour 228. Let's take a look at its temperature anomaly. People are saying, oh, that's average. Yeah, I don't know if that's average. Seeing 36, 35 degrees above average. A warm anomaly or a strong anomaly is usually 15, 14. That's already pretty big, but that's quite literally almost getting off the charts, which this is supposed to encompass pretty much 100% of all anomalies, rarely getting to those sides. So, yeah, we've been definitely seeing more of these extremes, and this isn't just, on a warm side. We've been seeing the extremes on the cool side as well. If you recall last winter, it was last September, it was early September, and we saw this massive cool outbreak of air across the western and central United States. I mean, some anomalies were into the 50s below Fahrenheit. It was incredible, and that was followed by a heat wave. So definitely something that is noticeable, and we'll have to probably continue dealing with this for a good stretch of time. Possibly well into the future. But nonetheless, again, this isn't anything to cause panic. There will be rain across these areas, hopefully, as I mentioned, with these storms. Notice the GFS did show a lot of heat there. Not so much rain with this GFS model run, because if you recall, the European showed around 2 to 3 inches, which, again, I would say is a bit more believable. Notice, though, again, the GFS favoring the north and northeast with that rain, and even portions of the southwest a bit more than the European. And as I did show you, the European, notice it favors more of the northern plains, and I think that will happen. There's a good degree that or there's a good chance at least, maybe not 2-3 inches, but at least an inch could fall across the North Dakota, potentially, hopefully getting in some portions of South Dakota. But yeah, that's basically it. I want to show you the Storm Prediction Center. Not really much going on right now. There really isn't a lot. The severe weather is there every day, but if you recall, as I mentioned, the brunt of this system will be occurring into the weekend, so it doesn't go that far out. Regardless, I don't think there will be massive, wide severe weather outbreaks. Maybe a slight two-way enhanced. It would be very hard pressed to find a moderate issue next week. I don't think so. Probably more of a flood threat. I think there could be a moderate flood risk issued in some areas if the storms kind of train over the area, over the same areas. But yeah, definitely a wetter period of time for the Great Lakes, the Northeast, a bit drier for the South, a bit potentially wetter for the Upper Plains, hopefully. The Northwest, again, hopefully some rain, especially towards the extreme northern areas, but generally still drier in the Southwest, staying very hot and dry. So yes, this big storm risk doesn't apply to everyone, which is important to know, as when I say there's a big storm, you know, it's a giant country. It would be impossible to have a storm that affects every single area in the same situation. It could affect a large area in some sort of a way, but that doesn't mean with rain, you know. Because of the storm system, there's not a lot of precip that gets kind of active across the south and it gets scoured up to the north. So that's kind of a cause and a reaction of that. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya, guys. Bye.